Welcome to the Speak English podcast, AfroNova Style. Yes.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Speak English podcast, AfroNova Style. I'm Dio Wells.
And I'm Kemi Blake. So glad to have you joining us again today, for another engaging conversation.
Absolutely, Kemi. And today we're diving into something super practical, something that I think a lot of our listeners, especially those learning English, will find incredibly useful. We're talking about impromptu speaking.
Oh, yes, impromptu speaking. It's such a crucial skill, really, for building up your English fluency. I mean, it's not just about, knowing the words, is it? It's about being able to, just articulate them on the fly.
Exactly. We're going to break down what it is, why it's a game changer, and give you some expert tips on how to master it. So stick around. You won't want to miss this.
So, Dio, we've mentioned impromptu speaking, but I think it's important to really define it for our listeners. What exactly are we talking about here?
That's a great point, Kemi. I mean, at its core, impromptu speaking is basically the ability to speak clearly and effectively, without any preparation. It's not like you've got a script or you've rehearsed it 100 times. It's just, off the cuff.
Right. Like when someone asks you a question out of the blue, or you're in a meeting and you suddenly have to give your opinion. It's that moment where you just, have to articulate your thoughts without much time to think them through.
Exactly. And the reference sheet we're looking at, it really emphasizes this. It helps develop your fluency, your confidence, and those really important quick thinking skills. And honestly, for English learners, this is doubly useful, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because, when you're learning a language, sometimes you get so caught up in the grammar or finding the perfect word, but impromptu speaking kind of forces you to just, let go of that a little bit and just speak. It's less about being perfect and more about just getting your message across.
Yeah, it's that real world application, isn't it? It's not just about, memorizing vocabulary or verb conjugations. It's about being able to integrate all of that instantly right there in the moment and connect with people. It's such a foundational skill for true fluency. When we talk about it being foundational for true fluency, I think it's crucial to really dig into why it's such a game changer, specifically for English learners. Kemi, what are some of those key benefits that stand out to you?
Oh, absolutely, Dio. I mean, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is that it really encourages you to start thinking in English. So many of us, we get stuck in that loop of translating from our native language to English in our heads before we speak. But when you're speaking impromptu, you don't really have that luxury, do you? It kind of forces your brain to bypass that translation step.
Yeah, that's a huge one, because that internal translation, it just slows everything down, doesn't it? And then you're hyper focused on grammar instead of just communicating.
Exactly. And on top of that, it really reduces your dependence on memorized speech. I think a lot of learners, especially, when they're first starting out, they might memorize a few phrases or even whole paragraphs for certain situations. But real life, it doesn't really work that way, does it? So impromptu speaking kind of rips off that Band-Aid.
Right, because you can't pull out your cheat sheet in a real conversation. It forces you to just react organically. And I think that also ties into a really big one, which is overcoming the fear of speaking. A lot of our listeners, I know they struggle with that.
Oh, for sure. It's the more you do it, even if you feel awkward at first, the less scary it becomes. It's like a muscle you're training, right? And speaking of training, it really trains your brain to respond quickly in conversation. You don't have forever to think of the perfect reply. You just gotta come up with something.
Yeah, that quick recall, that mental agility is invaluable. And I think, too, it really helps build that natural phrasing, the rhythm, the intonation, because when you're not reading from a script, you start to sound more like a native speaker, don't you? It's not so rigid.
No, not at all. It's you're not just saying words, you're expressing yourself naturally, with all the little pauses and stresses that make a conversation flow. That's really, I think, the beauty of it. It moves you from just knowing the language to actually using it, effortlessly.
Kimmy, that really leads us perfectly into the first expert tip that we found, which is all about embracing the silence, or as they put it, trust the pause. I think this one is so important for a lot of English learners who feel like they always have to be speaking.
Oh, absolutely, Dio. I mean, it's such a common misconception that, like, silence is a bad thing, right? Like, you feel like you're failing if there's a pause. But actually, the research and the experts, they're saying the opposite. Silence isn't failure. It's like a moment for everybody to catch up.
Yeah, it's a breather, isn't it? It gives both you, the speaker, and your audience, the listener, time to actually think, like digest what's been said or formulate your next thought. It's not a gap to be immediately filled with noise.
Exactly. And, a lot of us, myself included sometimes, we tend to, like, fill those silences with or like, knows. And what this tip suggests is, well, instead of those filler words, why not replace them with intentional breaths?
That's actually really powerful. So instead of like, I went to the store, and then I bought some milk, it's more like, I went to the store, pause, deep breath, and then I bought some milk. It just sounds more confident, doesn't it? More controlled.
So much more confident. And it also, like, gives you that split second to gather your thoughts, to really think about what you want to say next, which, if you're speaking impromptu, you might need a second or two to, like, formulate that sentence or find that right word.
Right, because it's not about being perfectly eloquent all the time. It's about being effective. And if a brief, intentional pause helps you be more effective, then it's a win-win for everyone, isn't it? For you and for the listener.
Totally. It's a skill you can really practice, Just like noticing when you're about to say and instead just taking a conscious breath. It takes a bit of awareness, but it's so worth it for how much clearer and more confident you sound.
Speaking of practicing skills, Kimmy, that actually brings us really nicely to expert tip number 2. And this one is all about taking small steps but making big gains. This is the idea of practicing in like really small daily doses.
Oh, I love this one too, because, sometimes when you think about improving your speaking, you imagine these like huge, long sessions, right? But what this expert tip suggests based on insights from people like Victoria Akonwa on TikTok and YouTube is that consistency really beats length.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about like sitting down for an hour every day and doing a full speech. It's more about just finding like 1 to 2 minutes maybe a day, just speaking on a random topic.
Exactly. Just like pick a random topic from your head or maybe use one of the prompts we'll talk about later and just speak for a minute or two. And like the beauty of it is that it's just about showing up every day.
And that daily habit, that consistency, that's what really rewires your speaking reflexes because, we're trying to build that muscle, that fluency muscle. And just like any muscle, you build it with regular, consistent workouts, even if they're short.
It's true. I mean, it's almost like your brain starts to expect it, like, okay, it's 3 p.m., time for my 1-minute impromptu speaking session. And it just becomes less daunting, less of a big deal, and more of just like a natural part of your day.
Yeah, it takes away that pressure of having to perform. You're just like having a little chat with yourself or practicing out loud. And that, I think, makes it so much more approachable for anyone, especially when you're still building confidence.
Right? And, those random topics, too, like, it keeps things fresh. It's not like you're memorizing a script. It's truly pushing you to think on your feet in English, which is exactly what we talked about earlier as a key benefit of impromptu speaking.
Yeah, so instead of, dreading it or putting it off, you're just doing these little bite-sized pieces every day. And over time, those little bits really, they compound, don't they? They add up to something significant.
Oh, they absolutely do. It's the whole Rome wasn't built in a day kind of thing. But, a brick was laid every day. So like those 1-minute speaking sessions are your bricks.
I love that analogy, Kimmy. And it actually brings us to our third expert tip, which,
It's something that often gets overlooked, but it's so powerful. It's about grounding yourself physically.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one because speaking isn't just about what comes out of your mouth, right? It's about your whole being. And this tip, which comes from insights from YouTube interviews with public speaking experts, really emphasizes using your body to manage anxiety.
Exactly. Like when you're feeling nervous, your body often tenses up, right? Your breath gets shallow, and this tip says, hey, use deep breathing. Like really feel your lungs, let that breath go out.
And it's not just breathing. It's also about body movement and posture, like standing tall, having your shoulders back, maybe even doing a little stretch before you start speaking.
Right. Like those power poses, you hear about them, right? Like putting your hands on your hips, standing wide. Even if it feels a little bit silly, there's something to be said for how your physical stance affects your mental state.
Totally. I mean, I remember hearing about that a few years ago, and I was skeptical, but when you actually try it, you realize, okay, there's a reason why people talk about this. It really does, channel those nerves into clarity, if that makes sense.
It totally does, because when you're physically grounded, you're not, lost in your head. You're actually present in your body. And that presence, I think, translates into clearer thinking and subsequently clearer speaking.
Yeah, and it could be something as simple as, clenching your fists and then releasing them, or just rolling your shoulders. Any little calming ritual that just helps you connect with your body and release some of that tension before you start speaking.
It's almost like a pregame routine, for athletes. It's like, okay, before I go out there and deliver, I'm just gonna take a moment, ground myself, breathe, maybe adjust my posture, and then boom, I'm ready.
Yeah, it's about really taking control of your physical state, which then, impacts your mental state and ultimately your ability to speak clearly and confidently. So definitely don't underestimate the power of your physical self when it comes to impromptu speaking.
So we've talked about trusting the pause, practicing daily, and grounding ourselves. And that grounding thing, really helps you feel present. Right? Which is super important for what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah, absolutely. Because once you're present, then you can actually focus on what you're saying. And that leads us to expert tip number 4, which is frameworks are your friends. And this one comes from Reddit threads and articles on public speaking.
Oh, I love this one because impromptu speaking, it can feel like you're just, throwing words out there. But frameworks, they actually give you a scaffolding, right? A structure for your thoughts.
Exactly. When you don't have a plan, it's so easy to just ramble. You start one thought and then you jump to another, and before you know it, you're all over the place. A framework, it keeps you on track.
And the one they specifically mention, which is quite popular, is PREP, P-R-E-P, which stands for point, reason, example, point. And I think that's it's such a genius way to organize your thoughts. On the fly.
Yeah, so you state your point first, right? This is what I believe, or this is what I'm talking about. Then you give a reason why that point is valid. Why do you think that?
Mm-hmm. And then the E, for example, is where you bring it to life. You give a real world scenario or a story or a personal anecdote that illustrates your point, which I think really helps connect with your audience, right?
Oh, absolutely. People remember stories. They remember examples way more than just abstract ideas. And then, that final P is you circle back to your original point. So you reiterate it, kind of to tie everything up neatly.
Yeah, it's you've stated your case, you've backed it up, and then you're and that's why I said what I said. It's so clean, and it really it just prevents that dreaded rambling that can happen when you're speaking without preparation.
Totally. And it's not just prep, right? They mention other simple templates too. The idea is just to have some kind of mental blueprint, I guess, that helps you move from one idea to the next without getting lost.
Yeah, because when you have that structure, even if you like forget a word or stumble a little bit, you still know where you're going. You know what the next step in your thought process is. So it really supports like clear, coherent communication. It's pretty powerful, actually.
Absolutely. It's about having that mental blueprint, right? So you're not just throwing words at the wall. And, speaking of not throwing words at the wall, this actually brings us to our final expert tip for today, which is expert tip number 5. Perfection is overrated.
Oh, this is my favorite one, honestly, because I think this is where a lot of people get stuck, especially when they're learning a new language. You feel like you have to be perfect. Otherwise, you're not good enough.
Right? Like, oh, I can't speak unless my grammar is absolutely flawless or my pronunciation is like exactly spot on. And the thing is, mistakes are they're part of the process. They show growth.
They really do. I mean, think about it. If you're not making mistakes, you're probably not pushing yourself enough. You're probably staying in your comfort zone. And for impromptu speaking, that doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. And the reference sheet puts it so well, actually. It says mistakes show growth. And it also says confidence comes from staying present, not sounding perfect. And that, for me, that just like hits home.
It really does. Because, sometimes you might trip over a word or you might mispronounce something or you might use the wrong tense. And in that moment, you just feel like, oh, gosh, I failed. But if you're present, if you're just focusing on connecting with your audience and getting your message across, those little stumbles, they really don't matter as much as you think they do.
No, they don't. In fact, sometimes those little imperfections actually make you more relatable, Like, it shows that you're human. You're not like some robot just delivering perfect lines. So yeah, embracing that like imperfection, that's really key.
Is huge because it frees you up, doesn't it? It just like takes that pressure off, that immense pressure of feeling like every single word has to be like perfectly placed. And when you remove that, it's so much easier to just like let the words flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And, now that we've gone through all these expert tips, I think it's time to get, really practical. Like, what do we actually do? How do we put this into practice?
Right, because it's one thing to hear the theory, but then it's like, okay, Kimi Dayo, what do I actually say? What do I talk about?
Exactly. And our reference sheet actually has some fantastic practice prompts that, you can use right away. Like one of them is, what is one tradition from your culture you wish the world understood? Ooh, that's a good one.
Ooh, that is a good one. It's personal, but it also like makes you think about broader things. Another one is, describe your dream vacation and why you chose it. I like that one too. I feel like everyone has a dream vacation, right?
Oh, absolutely. And then there's, if your favorite song had a smell, what would it be? That's a fun, quirky one that really gets your, creative juices flowing.
That's really out there, actually. I like that one. And then tell me about something small that made you happy recently. I love these prompts because they're not like super academic. They're not formal. They're just like everyday conversational things.
Yeah, exactly. And one more, if you had a superpower for one day, what would you do?
Oh, that's so much fun.
See, these are like perfect for just getting started. They don't require any research. You can just speak from the heart, which is what we're trying to do with impromptu speaking.
For real. And the reference sheet also recommends using a timer. This is important, right? Like 30 to 60 seconds. Don't try to go for like 5 minutes right away.
Yeah, no, start small. Start with that 1 to 2 minutes we talked about earlier. And the key thing it says is try not to stop, which, we said you can pause, you can breathe, but just like keep going. Don't get stuck.
Yeah, don't let yourself just freeze up and like go silent. You can pause, take a breath, but then keep the words flowing. And speaking of flow, another really good tip is to record yourself.
Oh, this is huge. I mean, I know it can be a little like uncomfortable at first to hear your own voice, but it's so valuable for improvement, just to see like where you're stumbling or where you're doing well.
Exactly. You can actually like listen back and identify those filler words or, maybe notice if you're speaking too fast or too slow. And then another point that I think is often overlooked is to repeat topics.
Oh, that's interesting. So if I talk about like my dream vacation today, I can talk about it again tomorrow.
Yeah, like the sheet says each time you'll sound smoother. And that's actually really true because you're not going to be like starting from scratch with ideas. You already have some thoughts. So you can focus more on the delivery and the fluency.
That makes so much sense. It's like building on your previous attempts, rather than always trying to come up with something brand new. You're just refining what you've already done. That's a smart tip.
Wow, Deo, we've covered so much, haven't we? From what impromptu speaking even is to all these amazing expert tips, and then, of course, the practical prompts.
We really have, Kimmy. And, the biggest takeaway for me, and something I think we really want to leave our listeners with, is that fluency, it really lives in the moment. It's not about being perfect on the page or, having every single word planned out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about like being present, being able to communicate effectively even when you're caught off guard, and that really just comes from consistent daily practice, even just those 1 to 2 minutes.
Exactly. So, don't overthink it. Just start speaking. Pick a prompt. Set a timer and go for it. Remember, mistakes are just part of the journey.
For sure. Well, that's all the time we have for today on the Speak English podcast, AfroNova Style. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, a big thank you to all our listeners. We hope this episode has given you some great tools and inspiration to, really boost your impromptu speaking skills.
We'll catch you next time, guys.
Bye for now.